People may be different in many ways, but there's one thing that brings them all together: the Green Bay Packers. In Titletown, the blue-collar city only knows hard work, tailgating, championships, but more importantly, they know family.
We have a saying in this town: faith, family, and the Green Bay Packers are all that you need. Sanjay and I grew up in Green Bay. You could say that we are Green Bay, or even better, the voices of Green Bay. We bring a local feel of Packer fandom to a worldwide audience.
Friendship, family, and football.
Ladies and gentlemen,
This is the Freezer Podcast.
good evening, Packer fans. Welcome to the Freezer Podcast here, hosted by Game On Wisconsin. I am Matt Jensen, joined here by my esteemed colleague, Frederick Thurston. Fred, top of the evening to you, I guess. How are you doing?
Top of the evening to you. Hey, that was very astute without Sanjay here. Obviously, the light of the party is not here. I believe he's swinging the sticks, right, to win a championship for golf. He made his priorities pretty clear. No, he made his priorities pretty clear.
He made his priorities clear. I think we're semi-okay with it because he might bring some hardware back for the Freezer Podcast. He might be a champion after tonight. We'll see. I don't know. He's probably thinking about how he's not here, and it's in his head, and it might cost him a couple of strokes. So I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but we'll see. We'll see how things turn out.
It would be nice. I mean, I think we need some. I'd like to see a trophy behind him. I will say though, that I also am happy he's not here because I don't know if I could deal with him picking us to lose against the Bears. Because I think it's inevitable right now. I mean,
he's down hard, and he sees blood in the water. If there's a time to pick against them, you do it now while they're coming off of a bad loss. So you know
what? He didn't send us his pick, so technically it doesn't count.
He's off the hook. So I think maybe it's a good thing we spared him some embarrassment here by having to do that. So. Well, obviously we're Sanjay-less tonight here, so Fred and I are going to do our best here to fill in for him. But I think we'll do okay. Few things to go over, I guess. But big topic, obviously, going to be the Packer game this past Sunday. We'll go over our thoughts, reactions to it. Kind of talk about some pros and cons, highs and lows, etc. And we'll also look at some news around the NFL because I think it's important to kind of get just a general, overlook of what's going on because. As bad as it may have seemed after Sunday, there are teams, believe it or not, that had it worse than the Packers, and we'll touch on that.
Are you good? Are you good? I know you were. So listen, we were all pissed, right? Everyone's a little stressed. Wasn't the way we want to start the season off, especially when it seems to be a routine now. But where are you sitting today, Tuesday, 2 days removed from the loss?
Okay, I generally disappointed, but I think the further I get from it, the more I'm like, okay, Matt, chill out. It's one game. We're going to be okay. But I do want to touch on that. It's like, I don't understand, some of the things that went down, and we'll dive into it a bit. So I have some beef with kind of how the game panned out. But I think right now, after having some time to reflect on what we saw and look back on some of the good things that did come out of it, believe it or not, there were, I don't feel as bad about it as I did in the moment, or even yesterday morning when I sent you guys that text at like 7:30 in the morning saying, man, I'm feeling it hard this morning. I can't just not dealing with it well. So I think I'm doing better. And I think by the end of the show, I'm going to feel great. So let's dive into it.
Yeah, I'm here for you, man. We'll talk through it. I don't know if I took some ayahuasca and I'm feeling good about it, but maybe it's just show up being on Tuesday is a good thing, man. I think we saved Tuesdays, ourselves. Maybe I'm getting older. Maybe I have more Zen. I don't know what's going on here, but I'm feeling it. So let's kind of dive into, like, should we talk about the good, the bad, or do you want to talk about the rest of the NFL? Maybe that will make us feel better going into this. What do you think?
Yeah, I think either the rest of the NFL or let's talk about the good first. Let's start on a high note and get that out of the way first.
Yeah. All right. What are your what are some I'm interested to hear what you have to say because I don't think off the top of my head I can really think of anything that was good outside of, I will say this, special teams did not have a blunder. Did not have a blunder. And that will be, I guess, my one and only good thing, because I don't think I can go through and say anything. I guess I will give massive credit to the run game, as sparingly as it was. I thought that both AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones looked fantastic, which again makes you can back end that with what the hell.
Well, maybe it'll be hard to go into the good without actually having a touch in the bad, because there's way more bad there's good, so you just kind of have to roll with the both.
Yeah.
But what I was gonna say was, was there good? Yeah, I know it's probably hard to pick it out. Maybe it's more on the individual performance level. Like, I loved what I saw from like Quay Walker. I almost said Clay Walker. Quay Walker. He looked the part, man. He looked quick, decisive, tough, physical, was a presence over the middle. Definitely had some early plays where you noticed that body type and him flying around the screen. So I think that they really have something there. And hopefully, come Wednesday, we get a little bit more info on, his situation with his shoulder. It sounds like preliminary. It might not be that bad, hoping he's available for this week. But I really liked what I saw from him. You just mentioned the running back tandem, when they were able to touch the ball, they were definitely effective. We'll go more into depth with that. And then I thought, the defensive front wasn't horrible. I didn't think the Vikings they were able to rush a ton. I know they didn't really have to, because Justin Jefferson had nobody within 10 yards of the entire game. And really, I thought the Vikings, because of that, spared us a lot of embarrassment, because if he wanted 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, it was there. It was there for him. And they figured, well, we got to play him again, so we probably shouldn't hang that on him. But so the good things again, like Walker, the run defense, and the run game itself.
Yeah, I agree with all those actually. And Quay was a great point, because I thought he was fantastic. His speed, man, sideline to sideline and closing speed on some of those tackles was something we've not seen, right? I mean, we've not had it with AJ. We haven't had it with Blake Martinez. I mean, list anybody in that linebacking group. I've never seen anybody with that type of speed. And I think that's going to be super beneficial for us in the future, right? My number one thing, and I'll probably say this about 15 more times on the show today, and all I said on Sunday was, you don't win the Super Bowl week 1 unless, like, you're the Bears, the Vikings. But I'm not that concerned about it. I'm looking like long term here. I'm looking when it actually matters, and I'm thinking to myself, Quay Walker is going to stop some of those people in that NFC that I can see us coming into with the playoffs. So he was great, and to come out the way he did, I mean, obviously the injury is a little bit of a scare, but he just looks really NFL ready. And I think that is a testament to, again, Gutekunst and everything else. But
which is great, because he had kind of a quiet summer, right? It wasn't like he was jumping off headlines and people were writing a bunch of articles on him. And people are kind of concerned, like, oh, we're not really hearing much from him. But kind of, as you mentioned here, first game he's in there, you notice him. So that's a great sign.
Yeah, the only thing I noticed of him all offseason was I thought he was super skinny. I thought he was super undersized. I saw him,
he looks big.
Packer family night maybe or whatever, and I was like, that guy is not big enough to be like, no, but he's very good. He reminds me a lot of, and this is such an easy comparison, and I hate when people do comparisons because they usually go easy on it, but a Roquan Smith to the T. I mean, they're just super similar, very similar styles. So it's very cool to see kind of to see that. And you know what? I'm gonna touch on what Iowa Joe, which we love you, Iowa Joe. Thanks for being here again. Jordan Love looked fantastic. Right? I mean, it looked very solid, all things considered. But to come in at that point and to just control and own the offense was really impressive. And I think he ran a little bit more of what that LaFleur offense is supposed to be. And I know there's been some concern over that via Twitter and things like that. This push and pull between LaFleur and Rodgers and not running LaFleur offense. I know that I think it was Peter Bukowski, right? I think touched on that a little bit.
The
LaFleurian offense, I believe he called it, which I love that. But I do think that's an issue, and we've talked about that on the show many, many times. So is this the year that starts to really butt heads? And I mean, I think that's a genuine concern when you have a team that's 13-3, NFC Championship, NFC, like that has been there. They start to look around and they start thinking, what is this? What is the issue here? What is the thing that's not happening? And people are gonna start pointing fingers, and it's gonna be like that Spider-Man meme where they're all pointing.
Yeah, you. I'm with you on that. And I do, when we've talked on the show and off air, about that exact scenario, and you always wonder like how much of the offense that ends up making it on tape is LaFleur and how much of it is Rodgers doing what he wants to do. And I just can't help but think every game that boils down to where Rodgers is, sitting back in the pocket and waiting for these later developing routes. Like, I don't think that's all LaFleur. I'm obviously not there, so I don't know for sure. But that was the staple of the McCarthy offense, line up and beat your man and double move and get them down the field. And it's like, dude, you don't have the horses for that right now, not only just talent wise but the experience wise, maybe talent wise, but and then that'll develop later on. But it's like right now, like I think what we thought, and we've talked about on the show leading up to this week, was that you would see a lot more of Rodgers just kind of running the LaFleur offense, going through his reads, finding the easy target and delivering the ball on time, and then go on to the next play. But it's like that quit the Watson dropped right away, which by the way, like made me sick to my stomach. Like not for like the football element, yeah, but the human element. Like I put myself in the shoes. I'm like, oh my God. Like, and even if you watch that video, you can see the Packers sideline, like the hype, and then which is immediately exhausted when they see the ball flop out of his hands. So I don't know. I mean, hopefully, they've been really good with LaFleur after losses. I don't think they've lost back-to-back games in his tenure so far. So you do expect a bounce back, but man, Fred, I don't know. Like if we're going to dive into the bad stuff here, like to me, like the number one thing you got to touch on is like the team preparedness. It's like, number one, it's like, what were you trying to do offensively? It's like, I don't know. I get your tackles were out, but you dealt with that all last year. And I feel like you had a pretty good, benchmark on how to kind of handle that situation. And two, defensively, it's like, what are we doing with Jair Alexander? I don't understand how you pay a man that much money and you wait years to find a player like that, only to put him in zone coverage and not trail maybe the best receiver in the game around, which ultimately was the fatal flaw in the game plan. And then they never deviated from it. So I have some serious questions about the coaching staff. I mean, this is absolutely a characteristic, unfortunately, under LaFleur, where the team just doesn't look prepared, or they don't have juice, or they're unable to deal with the least a little bit amount of controversy, early in the game. It's like they got to be able to overcome these gut punches early on. They got to be able to overcome drops. You got to go into a game aggressive, and you got to put your best players in the best positions to make the best plays. And I don't think they did that with their defenders. And offensively, and Freddie want to weigh in, but it's like, I don't know what they were trying to get at. It's like, what receiver were they trying to get to? The running game was kind of, all over the place. When they did touch the ball, they looked good, but no commitment to it. And at no point was the game out of hands where you could justify abandoning the run.
Yeah. It's super just like concerning. I would say, because it feels like it's just happened too many times. And it felt like it was almost embarrassing. Like I'm sitting in a room with Packer fans, right? So I'm good. Like we're good. But I still felt embarrassed. Like this is what you brought up to week one. Like everybody else seems to be prepared except for you. And I know a lot of the argument right now on, Good Morning Football, Twitter, everything like that is, the lack of that, starting your starters that last preseason game. And I would agree to a point, because you are looking at, now we're in the second year of not having that fourth game, not having the starters. And we seem to this year specifically was kind of a shit show, if you will, for week one. A lot of really good teams kind of losing games. But I can't imagine, right? I don't think that the shitty teams weren't starting their starters, because I'm pretty sure they were still benching their starters. I don't think it was that. I think it was just a very lackadaisical, lazy approach on the coaching staff. And when you're going to Minnesota, playing an arch rival, one that's literally wants your blood on a table, and a talented one at that, to come out and do what they did was astonishing. I don't even understand it. I feel like I have no correct words to describe it, because on the defensive side, I'll touch there first. The way that you cover a guy like Justin Jefferson is you don't let him run through zones. I mean, he is arguably as talented, if not potentially more talented, than the other guy that absolutely destroyed us for a decade or two in Randy Moss. And I don't see how. I mean, I know the argument is put Jair on him all the time. Jair all the time. Then you have to go to a man coverage, right? And that's just not really feasible in the NFL today. So I understand the idea of zone, but to not go into it like when you're going against the I'm not gonna say an all-time great. I almost said it. I just did say it. But when you're going against arguably the best receiver in the game, you game plan for that receiver.
Yes.
You don't game plan for the deep. Like you game plan against that guy. Nobody else is a threat on that team besides Justin Jefferson. So the idea that they just thought, oh, we'll just kind of run our defense and everything's just going to kind of pan out. And like that to me is so fucking lazy. And that bothers me the most of anything. Offensively, it felt like, again, I'm going to go back to the struggle between, the Rodgers LaFleur situation. I do think that LaFleur has a system that was not ran. I think that Rodgers went out there and had a little bit of his arrogance week one. I want to do a couple things to kind of, I'm going to come back and I'm going to do it myself and I'm going to beat him like I always beat him kind of thing. But it felt like they got away from stuff. It felt like they weren't doing the right things. They didn't run the ball enough. I mean, giving arguably our best player on the offense 8 total touches is absolutely criminal.
Yes.
Especially when he was playing as good as he was, both as a pass receiving running back and just a running back. So it felt very, very strange to me, like the entire approach to the game. And the other thing is I know Sanjay touched big time on it. Even when I got to his house, we're not going to win because we don't have the tackles. And I thought, well, we did.
They won all last
year without the tackles, and Jenkins in Bakhtiari, just to clarify that. But I thought, well, that shouldn't be a big deal. We should be able to just be fine. But that even seemed like an absolute shit show as well. And is that to a fault of who they are, or is it to a fault of how the offense was ran? I don't really know. And that's the hard part, because I don't know. A lot of me wants to blame the coaching staff, but I think a lot of blame needs to go on some of the players as well. And I think it was an all-around effort of, what are you doing? Why are you doing it this way? Why are you just like, whatever? But to bookend that, right? I do not believe that week one is that important. And I do not believe that it's the rest of the season is dictated off of week one. But it just would be nice to see that. Like, I don't even care if we would have won. I mean, I want to win, right? But I wouldn't have even cared if we just lost a tough game, but we played legitimate. We just felt like an absolute joke of a team. And then just I'll touch one time on Christian Watson.
Yeah, good.
That's all I really want to do. That was such a heartbreaking moment. Probably for him, but I feel like for myself even more. Because it was an absolute game-changing, game tempo dictating catch that he could have had to have them drive all the way down the field, which they did, which that drive was fantastic on Minnesota's part. Credit where credit's due. But to come back and Aaron Rodgers bomb one to Watson, that would have shut everything down. Minnesota went right back in their hole. They would all cowered again. The whole game would have been completely different had that happened. Yet it didn't. And the rest happened.
It's so true. Like, what could have, I sent you guys that picture today, that meme, what society would look like if Christian Watson caught that ball. It's so true, because like, if he catches that ball, I mean, what a better way to A, start your career, B, start the season. And
I said that to Sanjay as well. I said that catch might have, and I know this is super dramatic and drastic, but might have changed a potential Hall of Famer to a very good one, because receivers, quarterbacks are so egotistical and so mental that, like, you come out your first catch, is just a beauty of a touchdown against your arch rival. Who knows? He could have just been like, I'm never dropping anything.
Well, and he dusted future first ballot Hall of Famer Patrick Peterson. It wasn't like, but it's right. It's like the trajectory of what could have happened, is just intense. But to go back on a couple of things you touched on, one, the Jair situation, it's like, again, teams and the Packers are no exception to this. Spend forever to find a player like that to basically neutralize the other team's best player. And as Iowa Joe and most people point out, Ryan point out here, it's like the whole point of this thing is to take away your best the best target for the other team.
Yeah.
And the worst thing about it is week one, like they've been spending weeks on this game plan. Like they weren't game planning for preseason. Like they were thinking about the Vikings like in mid-August and how we're going to do this and how we're going to do that. And that's what they came up with, was to just use a bunch of zone coverage. It's one thing to go, okay, this is what we're going to do. And then in real time, you're watching it be dismantled. You got to do something about it. Then they made almost no adjustments, at least that I could notice. And it never really let up. Now, I will say the defense as the game went on, did buckle down a little bit. And it's like the Vikings went off and scored 30-some, 40-some points, although it felt like it was out there. They kind of figured out a little bit there at the end, but not before the damage was done. And unfortunately, their counterparts on the other side of the ball were not up to the task. And I think that's what kills me the most is, you hear Aaron Rodgers and the offensive guys talk a lot about, well, practice is where the real work is done. And we don't need to play in preseason games. And I've been on the side of, fine. That's probably true. And because of the health, angle of it, that's fine. Rest your starters. But now it's hard to argue against that now because 2 years in a row, you've come out and completely flat. And I thought this year, with as many new faces as you had on offense, it's like you needed, I think, to get those pregame jitters out before the bullets were live. It's like you have all these different moving options and guys coming in and subbing in and out. You can't really mimic that to a T in practice, only so much. But when the lights are on, there's fans in the stands, it's a different ball game. And I think you need to get that out of the way ahead of time. Obviously not recklessly and play everybody the whole time, but you can't tell me that offense and that team would have felt maybe more confident, or been a little bit better prepared had they done some of that in the preseason. So it's tough. It's tough to look back on because it's like what could have been. I think we all thought maybe this was out there, but like you said, I would have been fine with a competitive loss. It's just the notion of what were we doing this whole time? And that was the game plan, so it's just a bit of a letdown that's what they ended up on. So hopefully now, you got this film out here and, players are looking back on it. They can kind of make some corrections and next week's a different story, but man, just missed opportunities up and down the board.
You know what would be a really good correction?
You know what? I thought that would have died when Mike Pettin left town, but here we are again. What on earth? I understand they motioned him out, but if you're in a defense that has the potential for Preston Smith to have to go out and cover a wide receiver, it's got to be timeout city, and you got to do something about that. I hope I never see that again.
I just it absolutely blew. I saw it happen, and I go, oh, here we go. This is easy. Like you have to almost think that Cousins is looking at this like, what?
Okay, I put this comment up because while you were talking about the LaFleur offense and Rodgers, I thought about this. Iowa Joe, I saw the same thing when they had the camera on LaFleur while they were calling in plays, and I very clearly read his mouth, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, yeah, I think he said that to Rodgers. I think he's just changing the goddamn plays or whatever he's doing, but I think you can't convince me otherwise. That LaFleur, if you got him the lasso of truth on him, he'd tell you he's a little bit agitated and annoyed with Rodgers because he won't fully surrender to his offense.
Well, and
maybe I'm crazy, tinfoil hat Matt, but we'll see.
No, I've said it for years. I think that's always going to be what eventually becomes the breakup in this relationship. They can play all they want about off season and I grabbed his glasses and blah blah blah, but the problem is it's always going to come back to when the game is on the line or when things are looking bad. Is Aaron Rodgers going to put his trust in LaFleur? Is he going to do what he knows and what he does? And I don't know if he's wrong necessarily for doing that, but it's just not gonna fly. It's not gonna fly anymore. LaFleur is eventually gonna go to, upper management and be like, this is bullshit. I have a quarterback on the bench right now who will run my system, and it's got to be done. And I think that's eventually gonna be what the divorce looks like. And maybe it's amicable. I don't know, but yeah, that is, to me, it's gonna get worse, and I think we're gonna see that continue. And then I think, to even just echo Chris Jensen here, I think we're going to see that post Rodgers career. We're going to start seeing coaches come out and be like, yep, he never told us. He always switched the plays. He always did that. You know what I mean? And And let's not be like, I'm not being a Nancy about it or anything like that, because obviously the guy's so good, right? And I think he's earned the right to do some of those things, and
I
even
agree.
earn the right. I'll say this to go back. I know I was going to make a comment about this before, about preseason. You know, these guys want to say, "Oh, I don't want to play this last preseason game," and that's fine. And I say this a lot, like even with my kids, but even people I work with sometimes, is if you think that something's not being done the right way, right, and you think there's a better way to do things, by all means, I will give you that opportunity to do those things, and then prove me wrong. I'd be more than happy to be proven wrong. I like being proven wrong because I learn from it. You learn from it. We all learn from it. Um, but when you beg for this, and 3 out of the last 4 years, you put up bullcrap points and you lose games, then your way is not the right way anymore. I'm sorry. I gave you the opportunity to do so,
Yes.
and you did not pull through. So at what point does LaFleur and or the upper management need to come in and say, we gave you your chance. It's time to suit up. Not going to play your games anymore.
Well, that's it. In LaFleur, you know, and he gives those press conferences, and the reporters have done a great job in asking him about that, and he just gives that answer of, well, you know, yeah, we got to look at what we're doing, we got to change some stuff. It's like, but you say that every year, and there's no different results. So it's like, what's the one thing you haven't changed? Playing your guys in preseason, and if that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. Look at the Kansas City Chiefs. 5 touchdowns from Patrick Mahomes. You would think it's mid-October and they're humming along because it's mid-season. No, week 1. And they went on the road and beat the piss out of a pretty good Arizona Cardinal team, which people are trying to pencil in for some playoff action. So don't tell me that there's no benefit from that. And it's like, again, you don't have to play them the entire time, but get the rust off and just kind of get some of them back in that motion. I don't know. Try something different. That's apparently what it's got to be, because I don't know what else you can change. They brought in teams to practice against them, you know, up in Green Bay. I'm sure they've curtailed their practice, you know, what they're doing to different things, whatever it is, but it's not produced any different results. So hopefully they can figure that one out.
So we'll move on a little bit. We'll piggyback into the NFL and just into week 1 in general, because I think that's been kind of a thing that's been talked about a lot today. You know, the preseason, the idea, I think Joe Thomas was on and talked about, you know, offensive lines, right? The offensive lines across the board just kind of look sloppy. You got to get them pads on. You got to get hit. You just got to get into the rhythm of football, right? Like it's everyone's always better midseason. They're never great right out of the gate. They're never good even at the end of the season. It's midseason when you got things going on. But the NFL in general, I mean, what a wild week. I mean, the Bears pulling one over the Niners, the Steelers pulling one over the Bengals, and Burrow looking just confused and scared. The Texans tying the Colts blew my mind. I thought that was a no-brainer. And then obviously last night's game, which I don't think anyone thought of. I thought, I went into the season thinking that Denver looked to be one of the best teams in the league. And Seattle having just a plethora of gaping holes on offense and defense, and they pull out a win.
Yeah.
And Nate Hackett,
dude,
was he doing?
He's getting absolutely
demolished,
lambasted on radio and TV, and rightfully so, dude. Come on.
Let me ask you this question though, because I think it was Colin Cowherd asked Warren Moon this, and I thought this was an interesting take. I don't know if you saw it or not.
I did.
But he asked about that situation, right? When the timeout comes, he's like, why did Russell Wilson not go over to Hackett and say, hey, if we kick this field goal, right? You choose a kick to make this go for a field goal and you miss it, you're going to get destroyed. Let me take it. I'm paid. I'm the quarterback. You're a guy who get fired next week. I mean, he's not going to say it just like this, but basically, how does he not go into it and say, let me put it on my shoulders. I can handle it, and let me pick up this 4th and 5.
Yes.
And at what point? So my thought process behind it is like, does Russell not love Hackett? Does Russell kind of look at it like, fuck this guy if he gets, because like I can't imagine that Russell, right? We all know Russell's a little like weird and
he's a robot.
Little Russell, right? You're telling me that him, Mr. Height, Mr. Bronco Country,
Mr. Unlimited,
Mr. Unlimited. You're telling me that Mr. Unlimited, Mr. Unlimited.
Oh, look who's checking in from the golf course.
Oh, thanks, bud.
Hey, hope you're shooting them low.
Do you think that Mr. Unlimited didn't go to the sideline and say, "Let me take the ball"? Like, what happened there?
Okay, well, I don't know, but no one's talking about the preceding 30 seconds before the timeout, which there was over a minute. I think, was there a minute or close to it on the clock?
More.
Like they burned 40 seconds off the clock before calling a timeout and then decided to kick a 64-yard field goal. I'm way more like blown away that they blew, and they had 3 timeouts. It was like, what are you doing? You should have been an immediate timeout and then regroup and try to figure out how to keep going down the field to get more yards. But it does beg the question about Russell and Hackett. But I wanted to say to you was, who was on the Packers roster or on the coaching staff when they decided to take the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands in the NFC Championship game and decided for a field goal? Oh, Nathaniel Hackett. So, buddy, you should have known better immediately. You know what? I would rather live and die on Russell Wilson's right arm than 100%. On my kicker.
On his legs,
my kicker making like a near NFL record length field goal. Like, just insanity.
I mean, I would put all my money all day if I had a 4th and 5, right? If you gave me a 4th and 5 in that exact situation and you gave me my pick of quarterbacks, I would arguably probably take Russell, Brady, Mahomes, and then Rodgers in that order. Maybe I could. I mean, don't quote me on it because I just did that right now.
He's got ice in his veins. Like it or
not. You're talking about a guy who's absolutely ice veins, 4th down, and a guy who could run for it, who could easily step up and take off for 5 yards. Whereas like Brady couldn't, Rodgers probably couldn't, Mahomes could. Like he's got that dual threat opportunity with him. So like you have 2 outs, right? And that's if nobody can get open on a quick slant, or a quick 5 and out. I think it's a laughable situation because how are you so unaware of the situation? Like you just got your head coaching job. You have Russell Wilson, who I think arguably actually is the most successful 2-minute drill quarterback in the NFL right now.
I wouldn't doubt it.
I think he is. I think I heard that stat today. You're against the Seahawks, his old team, and you just straight out pansy out and think, I'm gonna kick the field goal. Like,
and it's not like they were pressed. It wasn't like they had to run down the field because they had a long play with a few seconds left to spike it and get somebody. Yeah. You had a whole minute and you're across the 50-yard line. You could, and the worst part is the 3 timeouts. What are you doing? You save them for that moment. Like you're hoping you have 3 timeouts when you have to do the 1-minute drill to win the game, and you had them and you just didn't even use them. Well, you used one and then decided to kick a field goal. Just mind blowing, young head coach. But it's like, dude, you gotta be better than that in that moment. That's why you got the gig is to coach that moment well.
Broncos lose next week. Do they fire him?
If they get blown out, I can't imagine. I feel like, they had a couple of turnovers. I mean, they could have probably won the game outright had they not been so sloppy with turnovers in the red zone.
The pressure, like the whole like I actually loved the fact that happened because it took away from the media talking about the Packers all day today. Which there was a lot of teams to talk about today, but
thank God.
That's pretty bad. It's pretty it's not like, oh, it was just luck of the draw. Like it was solely you made a terrible decision and it made you look like you were not ready to be a coach. And that's my concern.
I feel bad for Hackett because you finally get that opportunity, and that is what everyone's going to remember from that game. And probably, you hope it's not his career-defining moment because it's his first game, but that's going to stick with you. You're going to have to overcome that now.
Yeah, I mean, it's week 1, so I'm going to come back to it again.
It's
week 1. You don't win anything. Like
emotional game.
It's a very emotional game. Teams come out a little bit hotter, a little bit more crazier. So I'm not too worried about it.
Let me ask you this. Because we've lived through the Favre situation, what did you make of Seahawk fans booing Russell Wilson?
classless, shitty, childish, like just absolute stupidity, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's not forget who you were, Seattle, for the last 40, 50 years, however long you've been in the freaking league. You guys were absolute
forgettable
outside of the Hasselbeck, Sean Alexander era. But Russell Wilson is hands down the greatest player that's ever played for your franchise. And he's been a pillar in the community, a solid dude. Yes, he's weird. Yes, he's a robot, but there's nothing I can say about the guy that's like not like he's a great guy, right? He's a super good quarterback. He sets a pace for how to go into the offseason. He works hard. He's a dominant player. He's super successful. The guy begged Sierra for however, I don't know how that worked.
Patient man.
Like the fact that they're able to like be so quick to turn, and it wasn't like a bloody, like the Favre thing is so different. Like
way different.
I don't think you can like. I hate when people compare Favre, and I'm not yelling at you for this, but I hate when people compare Favre to situations because, like, that was like a 4-year, like dirty, long, drawn out divorce. Like the kids were affected. Like we were the kids. Like we weren't excited.
Traumatized.
We weren't excited about 2 Christmases. We were like wondering why is mom and dad not happy, but dad's still around, but mom's pissed. Now dad's pissed, but now there's a new girl and dad showed his wiener to her and attack. Like that's super weird stuff. Russell, like it was just, it seemed like, and I'm sure there was a lot of people that they were hurt. There was hurtness because nobody wants to see that happen, but like it seemed more amicable and it seemed like it was just time. For them to boo, like, gosh, like boo the team. Boo the whole Denver team. That's okay. But to boo him, like
it's classless, man.
I've always kind of liked Seattle too. So like now I'm like, you guys suck. Like,
yeah, their fans
off, man.
Their fans or whatever, you know. And I didn't agree with it whatsoever. At least when Favre, he got his ass booed at Lambeau real well, was because he went out of his way to go to Minnesota to stick it to us. Like we had every reason to boo his ass, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. I mean, I love Favre, and if my hero growing up.
If Russ would have went to like San Fran, fine, or like something like that, like then I could understand. But like.
He went to the Broncos in a different conference. He got you your only Super Bowl your only Super Bowl title. You know, probably should have been 2. You're the best player in your franchise history, and you guys are acting like he stabbed you all in the back on the way out and talked a bunch of junk. None of that happened. He just wanted a fresh start because they weren't aligned anymore on maybe how to build the team. Like, can you blame the guy? It's like Devontae Adams. He wouldn't get booed coming back here. He just wanted to go somewhere else. No hard feelings.
Brady back to Boston. Brady back to Boston. They had a video. They had, I mean, like, I thought it was remarkably distasteful on Seattle's part, and it made me feel bad. But you know what? To Russell's point and to Russell's character, he still held his head high.
He did.
And his post game interview was like he never once bashed them or talked any way negative, ill towards them. And I think, like, if you're a Seattle fan, right, and you booed him, I hope you watched that, and I hope you felt like a jackass today when you woke up and realized that was just, it was stupid, absolute stupidity.
Yeah, there's got to be a lot of regret there on their part. Any other games you want to touch on before we hop into next week's?
I will just say, I'll say the San Fran Chicago game. I think it'll be a beautiful segue. So I was at Charlie's birthday party, and we were at like a big trampoline park, right? And all the parents are there and the kids are there, and they have like this corner area where there's this huge, like, 10 screen TV, and they're playing that game.
Yeah.
So they're all these kids are playing, and I go over there, and it's like, 12 o'clock, maybe 1 o'clock. And you can buy beer there, right? So I get a beer, and I'm standing there and I'm watching the game, and I had like 2 drinks of the beer, and I was like, what are you doing, man? Like, this is your kid's birthday party. I'm like, here you are staring, watching football, having a beer. And I'm like, no. I'm like, so I threw the beer away and walked away.
Those are your natural male instincts coming out of you.
Yeah, absolutely. It was like I was just
beer football
to it. I just couldn't get away from it. But it was funny because actually one of the kids' dads is a Bears fan, so we like slowly made our way close to that area again and started watching the game. But I thought that was ironic and interesting because so many people were still so high on San Fran going into the league. And again, week 1, this is probably going to all be super changed. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people have
thank
good
you
priorities.
for being here. Yeah. Thank you for being here. We do appreciate it.
Thank you. What a guy.
Yep.
Or girl. I was a little shocked by that notion, but it was also one of those like classic NFL films, slop fest. And Ethan played a game last night against Kimberly. Same thing. It was just never stop raining. It was just an absolute slop fest. And at least they have nice fields. Soldier Field is a joke. And with all that rain, it's even worse. So I don't chalk a whole lot into it. I will say that I hear a lot of people talking about Aaron Rodgers coming back, scorched earth, revenge game against Chicago. I'm not really going to buy into that yet. I don't feel comfortable saying that because if that's the case, right? If that's where Aaron Rodgers' head's at, then I'm concerned because we're going to see what we saw against Minnesota where he tries to take over the
hero
game.
ball.
He tries to take, yes. So I would much rather him be more humble and thinking to himself, maybe I should, again, to go back to, doing it my way and it's not the right way, maybe go back to LaFleur and be like, hey, sorry that I kind of moved things around. I shouldn't have done that. Let's run your offense. When I find the opportunities, I'll take my opportunities, which is how I feel like this offense can be the most successful. Run LaFleur's offense. And when the opportunities present themselves, right? Like where it's single high safety or something, just, where it's an obvious mismatch, then take it. But to just run the whole offense through you because you think you're better, it's going to cause problems.
Well, 100%. And I think if they're going to be successful, he's got to relinquish that, man. He's got to buy into the system because they talked about it all summer about getting the ball in their best players' hands. And then, you finally get live action. And here we are after the game. Well, we got to get the ball into 33 and 28's hand. Then do it. Quit talking about it and do it. And as I said before, there wasn't a moment in that game where it's like, well, they're so far behind that you can't do this. It's like they could have kept running the ball. But to go back to the 49ers and the Bears game, I don't want to take anything away from Bears fans because I said on Twitter before the game, there's some tweet about how their fans were chanting, the Packers suck, and it's like, of course we're on their minds 24/7. And I said something about, well, you shouldn't be worried about us. You should be worried about not getting blown out by the superior 49ers. And lo and behold, a goddamn monsoon happens and it keeps the Bears in the game and they end up winning because the Niners just didn't know what to do with it. And Trey Lance, you couldn't have asked for a worse game to start your starting career with the Niners, just in that, not only in that slop, but on that field. So I'm not gonna take anything away from the Niners and look at them differently. And I'm definitely not gonna prop the Bears up because they happen to pull out of that one. But good for them. Take your victory lap this week. Enjoy it because you're not gonna have the same results next week. Won't be so happy, I don't think.
Yeah, I like I said, I didn't get to watch it as direct as I probably would like to. Maybe I'll go back and watch the
ugly, dude. It was ugly.
Yeah, I mean, everything I saw whenever I would like take a peek or we would go over there and kind of look at it wasn't anything special. It didn't look like Justin Fields was doing anything, remarkable. It just looked like a sloppy game. That being said, I will go watch it because I'm a psychopath and I'll probably just want to see what happened.
Well, I want to see what we're up against.
Just kind of see where, like, who kind of flourished, how their lines look, things like that. But I'd be shocked if we let them come here and we aren't. If we shit the bed, I mean, what
we can't. We can't shit the bed. It's not an option.
Let's just play that card. Let's just play the Sanjay card for a second. What does happen in your mind if anything, if Chicago were to come here and win? They're not.
I think. I mean, just to play. Yeah, we'll play the card. We'll entertain it. I think people would panic, man. I think, you'd be able to sell a certain percentage that, well, it's still early, but I think people would hit the skids and freak out. And I might be one of them if you come out and drop a game against the Bears at home. The reason why I do have concern is, like, you don't know outside of maybe like, Dillon and Jones, you don't know where that big chunks of offense are going to come from yet. Like Bobby touchdowns would be nice. I mean, I thought he looked good against the Vikes. But it's that unknown, because last year, you get pummeled by the Saints, but you're like, well, you got the best receiver in football. They're going to figure it out. They're going to be fine. You don't have that crutch this year. And, for a quarterback who's so particular about the depth of guys on routes and just all these intricacies, if he's going to need that to be as productive as possible, we could really be in for a bumpy 4 to 6 weeks here as the season kind of gets going. Go ahead.
Let me ask you a question, because you sparked my mind. I thought about this earlier today. So I've had, for the listeners, they don't care, but I've had terrible allergies all day. So I feel like my brain's been like in a weird fog. But I made sure to fill it with like Good Morning Football,
occupy that space.
The things that matter. The things that matter.
There you go.
But at one point I thought about, oh my gosh, now I feel like I just lost it. Timing, right? So Rodgers is so hell-bent on like the West Coast offense, which is a timing offense, which is your guys are supposed to be in a certain position at a certain time, blah, blah, blah. If you don't know West Coast offense, you probably shouldn't watch the show. Or at least go read a book.
Read a book.
Don't read a book. Just go to
Where
YouTube.
you been? I like it.
But West Coast offense built back in San Francisco a long time ago. It's fantastic. But it is literally Aaron Rodgers' like life is the West Coast offense. But what I don't understand about this, and maybe I'm crazy, Matt, you help me. I know Coach Salm is here, so I'm gonna maybe, if you have an idea to Coach Salm, if it's so predicated on timing, why does it always look like Rodgers is trying to buy time to get guys open? Because if it's so timing related and the route should be hit at a certain spot, shouldn't that just be like it's there, it's not, right? Why is he always waiting for like the secondary third? It's not. Is it progressions? Do the guys have a second, third out of their route that he's looking for? Because for somebody who's so hell bent on time, the guy seems to never throw a timed pass. It's always like, oh, I'm gonna like get outside the pocket, scramble a little bit, and then try to like find some, Jordy Nelson on on the sideline or something like that. So I don't know. Am I always thinking that?
No, you're not. He's always looking for, and you can kind of appreciate that, but not when it's at a detriment to your offense. He's always trying to look for the next more yards. So he'll pass on the quick read or the obvious read to see if the other route develops quicker.
But isn't that the West Coast offense? Like, shouldn't you just take your read and like
that's what you should do, but he doesn't do it. And he's always waiting for the next thing. You cannot have an offense and build it upon winks and nods and certain looks and shit you give guys when you're lined up. It's like you can't do it anymore. You don't have the guys for it. And so if that's what you're expecting, it's going to be a longer process. But that's why it's like you have LaFleur here, and he has this system, which, by the way, Aaron, it's working around the league. Teams are winning Super Bowls and making the playoffs consistently by just doing the offense.
You just got beat by another guy.
And, exactly. And he's made his money by being a great improviser and being great at when the play breaks down and getting guys to do certain things. But it's like, again, you don't have the personnel right now that are on the same page. So it's like, just cut the horse shit and play the offense. And if it's a 5-yard out, it's 5 yards. Fine. I remember vividly late in the game where it ended up being that pass to Tunyon that was in between three guys. It was 4th and 2. I said out loud 10 times, just get the first down. It's 2 yards. Just get the first down. It's 2 yards.
Yeah.
And he sends one in the end zone with 3 guys on him. It's like, you can't tell me that's a high percentage pass. I know you need points, but it's like, I don't know. I feel like he's doing that too much. And I was hopeful that we'd see this season start with that not being so prevalent. You'd see him playing in rhythm. You'd see him playing the offense, and just game one going out there shooting from the hip, which would have appeared, is concerning to me. So that's why I think this next week, man, there's so much riding on it. I know it's again early in the year, but it's like you got to see some kind of course correction there or some kind of indication that it's not going to be what we saw last week, which I thought was like a lot of 2019. It's like, they were successful, but the offense never seemed to be like in rhythm. And I think that's required this year if they're going to have success. You can't play hero ball.
Oh man, are we gonna have a long year?
I don't think so, man. I really don't think so. I think there's going to be some growing pains. I think that, the team will settle in. They're historically slow starters. if you look at their schedule, I know that things fluctuate throughout the year and teams rise and fall that you can't predict, but it's like, you got the Jets, the Giants, the Commanders, maybe one other team that, you should be. And then I think the Bucs are in there. So they have a favorable stretch of games coming up here. But the thing is, you got to win them. You can't fall behind and then get to the tough part of your schedule and try to be figuring some of the shit out. You can't do it.
Yeah, two things here. So Coach Solomon, I believe it comes down to progression and experience at the short game. Adams actually was always open. These guys aren't. It gets more and more challenging as you get to intermediate passing because the wide receiver and quarterback have to see and react to the same thing, which is absolutely true.
Yes.
I think that's why you see younger quarterbacks, going to that first progression, that short game much more. And I think Rodgers is he's
not wired that way. He's not wired. They can't teach an old dog new tricks. You know?
I don't think he sees it. I think he's so much more advanced. But at what point do you start to realize the people around you and start to think to yourself, maybe this is the right choice?
You can only play with the cards you have, right? You don't have an ace up the sleeve that's named Adams.
Speaking of cards that you have, but now you might have lost and folded, what does Dallas do?
I don't know. They got to hold on for dear life and basically pray that they're in some type of position when Dak comes back that they can keep it close. I mean, I keep seeing what Jerry Jones said today. Well, maybe 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks. Some people are saying 2 months. I don't think anybody has any idea how long this guy is going to be out.
Yeah, I feel like Jerry Jones is getting to that point where not that he's always probably been there, but he is antsy for that Super Bowl. And I'm curious if he will do something stupid in the meantime, before Dak comes back, because that team is very good. There's a lot of talent.
They're a lot of talent, but do you think Dak's the guy there? I mean, really? We've seen enough. Do we?
Yeah.
You think? Okay.
I do 100%. I actually really like him. I think is actually much more talented than people give him credit for. I think I watched him a lot in college, and I think his progression every year has blossomed, if you will, or just progressed.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's very good. I think we've seen a lot of interesting things out of him. The injuries concern me, right? I mean, you can be only as good as you are, but if you have your injuries constantly, it's just not going to happen. But by all means, that team is pretty much they're a contender, right? They're no better or worse than some of the other contenders in the NFC. I think losing the left tackle is huge, and I think injury things is a huge deal. But I guess between the injury to Tyron Smith and then his now again injury.
Well, and they trade Lyle Collins, their other tackle, and they don't have a replacement.
It feels like it's kind of. It just might never happen. They may have that curse that apparently the Packers have. So
get rid of it.
What if though? Real quickly, what if that is a real thing? Do you ever feel like somebody? Who did I talk to? It was either the guy at Charlie's birthday party, or it was Josiah from my church. He's a big Bears fan. But one of them said they're like, Packers are never going to win a Super Bowl again. They're like, I think they just don't have and they're like, it's not because you're not talented. They're like, I just think it's not going to happen. And I was like, and my initial thought was like, oh, well, you. But my second thought was, well, maybe they're right. I mean, think of how many talented players and chances we've had. At what point do we think maybe this isn't right? And actually, I shouldn't say that. I don't know if they said the Packers. I think they said Aaron Rodgers. So at least we're not doomed for life. But I started to think maybe that's not that far off.
I don't think it is. And I mean, he's kind of proven it. Not all the playoff losses are on him. There's been plenty where there's the debacle in Seattle. I mean, there's some games they shouldn't have even been there, arguably,
right.
like the Atlanta one. It's like he just dragged a corpse of a team there. But the last couple ones, man, he has not been sharp, and he's been part of the reason why they haven't won those games. He's also the part of, or maybe the reason why they're even in the game. So it's a very difficult thing to kind of navigate. But you do wonder, and I still think if he's gonna win one in Green Bay with LaFleur, it's going to be because he stops trying to do all this old Aaron Rodgers stuff, and he just runs the offense. I think it's there. If they have, you don't need to have Devontae Adams on the team to win the Super Bowl, clearly. But what you do need to do is be all on the same page and pulling in the same direction. And if most of the guys aren't, but the guy who's pulling the trigger is calling this and that, not doing what the coach wants, I'm speculating here, but I think that's working against them here. So that does make you wonder. And I feel like if they were going to do it, they would have done one of the last 3 years. They were primed for it. They had the finishing positions, they had the home field, all of it, and couldn't get the job done. So it makes you wonder. I'm hopeful this year, but I'm not holding my breath, man. I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, I don't think we're arguing whether or not AR-12 is ridiculously good. It's just something feels weird about it. It feels a little off. But I don't know.
It's a lot of scar tissue. It's a lot of scar tissue from the playoffs. So it makes you wonder, really and it's like Aaron Rodgers is a wonderful player, and I will miss him dearly when he leaves, and it's very easy to get down on him when this stuff happens. I think they have the talent. I think when he's in the game and dialed in, he's the best QB in the game. So yeah, they can win one with him, but will they? Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Is there anybody
in position before?
Are you full? Are you do you believe, quickly before we'll jump into the
Bears?
Yeah, wow, I can't think of it. Not the Bears, but our predictions. Thank you.
Yes, predictions for the
Are you fully believing in Buffalo and KC?
I'm a big believer. I'm a believer in both. I thought the Bills looked great on opening night. To go into LA and beat up on the defending champs, I think is huge. And the Chiefs, man, looked like a juggernaut. And they didn't just beat some poor, impoverished team, man. They beat the Cardinals, who a lot of preseason hype and people kind of expecting something out of them. So I think those two are clearly the class of the AFC. That side of football, man, is going to be just exciting to watch. There's some juggernauts over there in the AFC. It's gonna be fun to watch, and that's not always the case with the AFC football. Usually, I feel that way about the NFC, but I think it's flipped.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I buy in totally KC right now. I obviously I know they're talented, Mahomes, also. I think there's a lot of holes there in that team, especially defensively. So I'm interested to see kind of what happens as the games continue to go on. Whereas, Buffalo, I just think they are so good, and they have so much talent. And they just seem to have that it factor right now.
Hey, did Kansas City? I didn't watch the game. I saw the highlights, but did they have an identity crisis on offense because they lost Tyreek Hill? I didn't see. No, they just kept humming. They just kept throwing touchdowns, and it was like he wasn't even there. So that's what the Packers need to do. Okay, let's move on to the Bear game here. Get some predictions. And I know we didn't spend a ton of time breaking down the potentials of the game here. We kind of touched on a little bit, but no Sanjay, so things are going off the haywire a little bit here. I'll throw to you first, Fred. What are your thoughts in this game, score-wise, and what are you expecting?
I not that concerned. Not really concerned with the situation. I mean, the Bears are the Bears. I do like Justin Fields as a quarterback, but I think ultimately that entire team, there are just a lot of holes. I think that they won a classic Bears, victory last week in the rainy, muddy Soldier Field. And props to him for doing it, right? Like, I'm not trying to discredit it by any means. It was a nitty-gritty game, and the Bears showed up, and I think that's cool. And I think for their fan base, I know that they're pretty hyped about it. But they couldn't be walking into a worse perfect storm, right? They couldn't be walking into a worse situation where they're feeling a little bit good. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are a little bit pissed. They got to go to Lambeau. It's the home opener. It just feels like the deck is stacked against the Bears here. And that's just all on like your mumbo jumbo feelings, right? When you actually look at the rosters, Packers are exceedingly better than the Bears. And then just the situations, I think we're going to be okay. That being said, I don't know if I'm all in on the idea of like the scorched turf, like I said earlier. I don't think that Aaron Rodgers has some big revenge tour. But I do think we win, and I will say, we will beat them 30-10.
Okay. I'm agreeing with you kind of how the game's set up. You know, I would have preferred them to lose to the Niners, but I think they're going to have a little bit more pep in their step coming into this game, you know, because of that unexpected win. That's a big win. No matter how you break it down, that's a huge interconference win, no one expected. So I think they're going to come in more motivated than usual, have a little bit more behind them, you know, feeling good about themselves. So I think the Packers, I don't expect Green Bay to come out right away and just all of a sudden look like a completely different team. I think that they're going to have to weather a little bit of the storm early in the game. I think the Bears, you know, just based on emotions, will come in there and try to control it. But Green Bay is a more talented roster, and the cream always rises to the top. So I think that this game, I don't want to call it a get-right game, but I do think it's a game that the Packers should definitely win and control from the onset. You know, I think that it depends. We'll see if they get anybody back offensively along the line. I don't think they're going to. But you'd like to see the Packers commit to the run. I think that this game has Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon written all over it. We cannot see these guys having single-digit touches. We just cannot do it. And don't make this game about trying to be heroes and having long passes and having some receiver have a bunch of yards. I think we'll probably see Lazard back, so that should help. But you just want to see some consistency. I want to see the team move up and down the field and get some yards. And defensively, you know, I'm not in on Justin Fields. I haven't been that impressed with him. I think that we are set up well to defend what they have. I'm not worried about the run game. They have their offensive line a little bit shaky. So I think the defense should eat here as if they can get off you know, to a hot start. So looking at his score, like you, I'm not expecting a barn burner. I think I'm in the range of like I'm gonna say 27. I'm gonna say 27-13. I think the Packers win.
I like that.
You know, going away, but not necessarily a high scoring game. I think as the season goes, they'll ramp up. But you know, you got to win this one. This is not. There's no such thing as a must win week 2. But teams that start 0-2 typically have a difficult time, you know, throughout the season, and going down 0-2 in the division, really, it's kind of a double whammy. So 27-13 Packers come out 1-1. We're feeling a lot better about this team come next Sunday night.
Yeah, I was very close to that exact score, like 27-13, 30-10. That was kind of where I was thinking. I will just say, if you're watching the game, please don't expect us to come out and put 60 points and then put 0 points. Let's be realistic, folks. I would love to see, yeah, absolutely. If it happens, please fill my inbox with hate mail. I would just love to see, I would love to see the defense. I'd love to see the defense more so than the offense. I know the offense is a work in progress. I'd love to see that defense figure their shit out and come in and just terrorize Justin Fields, which is going to be difficult because he will run. So
he will.
That is it's the first one that we have to deal with.
That's why I want Quay Walker to come back.
And we have not always done super well against the running quarterback, so that should be very interesting. But that being said, we are clearly past our time. Sanjay, we'll see you next week. Hopefully you bring the chip.
If not, don't show up.
I would just say thanks for watching. Enjoy the week. The Bears still suck no matter what happens. I'm Fred, and that is Matt, and go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go.